Hand over your cabin for prom night for free. That's how this spoiled brat storms into my shop, demanding my $2,000 Memorial Day rental like I'm his servant. I'm standing there, covered in grease, thinking, has this kid lost his mind? Then his mother shows up. My son gets everything he asks for. I've got influence everywhere. I'm getting hot. I mentioned my wife might not take kindly to threats. She actually laughs. Sweetheart, I run this town. Your little housewife won't stop me. Ma'am, you've just picked the wrong family. Drop a comment where you're watching this. Karen doesn't even know what's coming. See, I figured this was just another Tuesday at Rivera's Auto Repair. My coffee's cooling while I'm elbow deep in a busted transmission. Classic rocks on the radio, and the familiar reek of motor oil fills the shop. Then a red BMW slides up, shining like it just left the showroom, and I instantly know my quiet afternoon is about to explode. Out steps Jack Collins, 18, in a polo that costs more than some folks' car payments, walking like he's never heard the word no in his life. This kid shows up in a different expensive ride every week, always flashing the latest gear, dressed like he's heading to a country club instead of talking to a grease monkey like me. Jack barges past my "please wait" sign, walks straight to my workbench and declares, "Mr. Rivera, I need your cabin." No, excuse me, no got a minute, just demands like I'm on his payroll. I wipe my hands on a rag, turn to face this entitled prince, and instantly see trouble burning in those cold blue eyes. What about it, Jack? His grin widens like he's offering me gold. I need it for prom night, Memorial Day weekend. The whole weekend. When I tell him it's been booked since last August by the Hendersons' loyal renters for 3 years, Jack's face twists like someone told him Santa doesn't exist. The kid literally can't process that something he wants isn't instantly his. But it's prom? He repeats, like those words should cancel contracts and families' plans. My girlfriend's family's important. We need a place for her. Pictures, the entitlement is unreal. This kid thinks his high school dance overrides legal agreements. That's when I hear heels striking pavement, and every instinct I've honed in 43 years starts screaming. Christina Collins steps out of that BMW like she's entering a fundraiser spotlight. And trust me, this woman knows how to command attention. She's 52, but keeping appearances is her full-time gig, wearing a blazer worth more than my cabin's monthly rent, clutching a leather portfolio thick enough to choke a horse. Christina carries an aura of raw authority that makes grown men avoid eye contact. HOA president for 6 years, feared across Pine Valley, known for crushing opposition until no one dares defy her again. She doesn't argue, she obliterates. Christina sweeps into my shop uninvited, heels pounding like a war drum, instantly steering the room with silky professionalism that makes my skin crawl. "Mr. Rivera," she says, her tone velvet wrapped around steel. I understand there's been some confusion about the cabin. No greeting, no introduction, just reframing my solid business decision as some confusion needing her guidance. I explain again that Memorial Day weekend is locked, booked months ago. Christina listens with that patient smirk of someone humoring. A child, eyes drilling into me, scanning every reaction, calculating exactly how much pressure it'll take to make me crack. This isn't small talk, it's reconnaissance for psychological combat. She pulls out papers from that thick portfolio, laying down official-looking documents like she's building a legal case right on my workbench. That's when I decide to reveal my ace. Just so you're aware, Christina, my wife Lavra is Chief Madison of Pine Valley PD. She always insists these matters be handled officially. The words hang heavy in the air while I watch for the usual reaction. Usually when people find out they're dealing with a law enforcement family, there's shock, respect, even quick backpedaling. But Christina, she actually laughs. Not awkwardly, but with real amusement, like I just told the best joke she's heard in weeks. "Mr. Rivera," she says, still smiling like she holds secrets I can't begin to imagine. I deal with county officials constantly. Cooperation is key. Her tone reduces Lavra to some beat cop, ignoring the fact that she's the top law officer in the entire city. If only this woman realized the mess she just stepped into. Because what Christina doesn't see is that Lavra isn't just Pine Valley's Chief of police, she's also been leading a federal corruption task force for a year and a half, targeting exactly the kind of political games Christina thrives on. But that's all classified. From her narrow view, she just sees a small-town officer married to a grease-stained mechanic, not a federal-level operative with FBI contacts and power to lock people up for decades. Laura's nights have been filled with encrypted calls, classified reports, and coordination with agents out of Denver. But Christina assumes she's only dealing with parking tickets and neighbor noise complaints. Jack shifts uneasily beside her, finally realizing this isn't about prom anymore. For the first time, the kid senses that his mother has walked into something far more dangerous. The air is heavy, crackling with tension, while Christina leans against my bench like she owns the place, brimming with the confidence of someone who's never lost a fight she picked. "Gregory, may I call you Gregory?" she says smoothly. Community cooperation matters here in Pine Valley. Licenses, permits, zoning, county inspections, so many moving parts, don't you agree? Every word is chosen to remind me how easily she could make my life miserable. While staying just within the lines of plausible deniability, this is her specialty: bureaucratic intimidation backed by political strings. What she hasn't figured out yet is that she's gone toe-to-toe with someone whose connections reach way beyond her county board meetings. She gathers her documents neatly, certain she's landed her blow. "I'll give you time to reconsider," she adds with practiced calm. "Sometimes we all need to see the bigger picture." Her hand lingers on the door handle as she delivers the final cut. "I do hope you'll make the right choice for everyone's sake." Then she's gone, perfume hanging in the air like the aftertaste of a threat. Jack trails her out, but not before giving me this quick apologetic glance as if he knows she's gone too far. I stand in my shop, trying to absorb what just happened. 20 minutes ago, my biggest problem was a transmission that wouldn't cooperate. Now I'm locked in a power struggle with the most ruthless woman in Pine Valley. And the ace up my sleeve, Laura's authority remains untouchable, locked behind professional ethics that keep her from interfering in civil HOA disputes. That night I lay it out for Lavra, framing it as harassment rather than outright threats. She listens with that cop's neutral face, processing carefully. "Honey," she finally says, "I can't intervene in civil HOA matters. What do you think? Should Lavra break the rules to put Christina in her place?" Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to see how this war plays out, Laura's role demands neutrality in neighborhood disputes, but I can see it tearing her up to sit back while her husband gets targeted. Document everything, Gregory. Keep detailed notes and let the process work. Easy advice to give when you're not under fire from a woman with county ties and a reputation for always getting her way. Christina leaves quietly, but I catch her instantly texting someone. Who's she calling? What kind of reach does she actually have to be this confident? Now I'm furious. You ever check your inbox expecting junk mail only to find a nightmare? Try 5 cancellations. All for Memorial Day weekend. 5. That's not just lost income, it's my whole peak season vanishing like water down a cracked drain pipe. And the kicker? Every single message cites the same reason: safety concerns and neighborhood conflicts. Neighborhood conflicts? I've never had issues in Pine Valley until Queen Bee decided my cabin belonged to her son. And these aren't random guests either. The Hendersons' faithful renters for 3 straight years, always early with payments. Always leaving the cabin spotless. Mrs. Henderson's email was so apologetic it stung. "We're so sorry, Gregory, but we've received troubling reports about safety near your property." Troubling reports from who? Take a wild guess. I'm hunched over my laptop at the kitchen table, trying to figure out how Christina Collins even got hold of my client's info. When the doorbell rings 8 a.m. sharp, who shows up unannounced? That early unless it's an emergency or a tactical move? I open the door, and there he is. A man in a suit worth more than my monthly mortgage, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Tall, skinny, nervous energy rolling off him like heat waves from asphalt. "Mr. Rivera, I'm Richard Collins, Christina's husband." "Oh, this should be Rich." Richard looks wrecked. Eyes bagged, tie off center, coffee stained on his briefcase. His hands actually tremble as he passes me some official-looking documents. My wife asked me to discuss the cabin matter. Perhaps we can reach a mutually beneficial arrangement? The way he delivers the line like he's reading from a script someone else forced on him tells me everything about power inside their marriage. Richard's clearly got law credentials. I spot his bar certificate poking out of that briefcase. But his whole demeanor screams fear. He keeps flicking glances at his watch, back at his car like Christina might materialize at any second to grade his performance when he shifts into talk about county codes and zoning compliance. His voice steadies legal jargon is safer ground than human interaction. Mr. Rivera, my wife has strong ties with county planning. She sits on multiple boards, advisory groups, development initiatives. His words trail off when he registers my face. Probably because I'm not buying this soft sell any more than I bought Christina's veiled threats. This isn't about boards or initiatives. It's about raw muscle and a woman who thinks she can take what's mine. That's when salvation jogs right up my driveway, Maria Santos in workout gear, timing her run like a suburban superhero, showing up exactly when things heat up. She's been my neighbor for 2 years, ever since transferring in from Denver. Maria works some kind of government position that keeps her on the move, but she's always warm whenever we meet at the grocery store. "Oh, hi, Gregory," she says, with her usual bright smile, glancing toward Richard. "I was finishing my jog and noticed you had company. Everything all right?" Richard's face drains of color the second Maria introduces herself, and I catch something fascinating. He knows who she is, or at least recognizes enough to be spooked by a federal agent showing up mid-intimidation. Maria keeps it light, but I can see her mind clicking, filing every detail like an investigator on duty. "Business disputes," she says casually. "That's actually part of my field. Gregory, you know you should be documenting everything, right? Paper trails are vital when multiple parties and potential regulations are involved." Richard doesn't last long under that pressure. He bolts, practically tripping over himself as he leaves. Afterward, Maria lingers just enough to give me some pointed, neighborly advice: keep records, snap photos, and understand my legal rights. She doesn't spell it out, but the message is obvious. This is going to escalate before it ever calms down. The rest of the morning, I dig into Christina Collins online, and what I uncover is equal parts impressive and terrifying. She isn't just a power-hungry HOA president throwing tantrums for fun. She sits on the County Planning Commission, the Pine Valley Business Development Board, chairs the Youth Foundation, and her name shows up in agendas, minutes, and local newspapers. Going back years, Christina has built a spiderweb of influence stretching across every corner of local government. Suddenly, it makes sense why she laughed when I mentioned Laura, because in her world, connections beat badges, favors outweigh laws, and knowing the right people trumps being right. But then it turns darker. The Pine Valley Youth Foundation supposedly takes in over $200,000 annually in federal grants. Yet I can't find much evidence of any programs. Their website is all generic fluff, their social media presence is barely alive, and their listed office turns out to be just a P.O. box downtown. For an organization claiming to serve hundreds of kids, they're strangely invisible in the actual community and Christina's personal life. The BMW, the designer wardrobe, the mansion in Pine Valley's most exclusive neighborhood, all on a nonprofit salary, plus whatever Richard brings in as a small-town attorney. The math doesn't add up. Maria's warning to document everything is starting to sound less like advice and more like survival strategy. By Thursday, the hammer drops. A certified letter arrives, and my hands literally shake as I sign, because official government mail has never once been good news in my life. Inside is exactly what Christina hinted at: a formal notice requiring full property and zoning inspection of my cabin within 10 days. Non-compliance could mean an immediate suspension of my business license, plus fines up to $25,000, and then the part that freezes my blood. Paperclip to the notice is a handwritten line on county letterhead. "Mr. Rivera, this inspection was requested by a third party with significant county connections." She tells me I should get ready because some people absolutely hate losing. Imagine that. Even the county inspector felt so uneasy about Christina's power plays that he risked his own job just to slide me an anonymous warning. That's not normal. What has Christina orchestrated that makes government employees break protocol just to protect me? That night, Laura drags herself home, looking like the weight of classified secrets is still clinging to her shoulders. When I explain what's been happening with the cabin, her expression shifts tight, conflicted. I know that look. It's the one she wears when her instincts scream at her to act, but her position forces her to stay neutral. "Greg," she says carefully, her words sharpened with lawyer-like precision. "I can't interfere in HOA disputes, not when they involve prominent citizens. My role requires absolute neutrality." But I can see the frustration behind her eyes. It's eating her alive to watch her husband get targeted by people who should know better than to cross a law enforcement family. She pours a glass of wine, sits beside me, and offers what sounds like simple advice. Document everything. Keep records, follow the rules, trust the system. Easy words to say. Harder to live when Christina Collins is circling like a shark with county connections and influence to burn. I glance at the inspector's note again, reading it for the 10th time. Some people don't like to lose. The phrase won't stop echoing. What exactly has Christina set in motion? At first, I wasn't terrified, just cautious. But as I dug deeper into Christina's history, dread started building in my chest. Have you ever peeled away layers of something dangerous, like a bomb? Every layer makes you realize just how unstable the whole thing really is. That's where I am now. 3 straight days of digging, and I've learned Christina Collins isn't just some HOI tyrant. She's constructed an empire. And my small rental business? It's suddenly become a threat to something much bigger. One detail keeps gnawing at me like a splinter: the Pine Valley Youth Foundation. They get over $200,000 in federal grants each year. Yet when I called to ask about volunteering, I was fed vague excuses. "We're restructuring. Check back next quarter." Next quarter? You're getting federal money now. Kids need help now. Where's the accountability? Maria Santos, though still playing the role of concerned neighbor, starts steering our coffee chats into very precise questions. She frames it as casual conversation, but her tone carries the rhythm of an investigator. "You know, Gregory," she says, absently stirring her mug, "legit nonprofits usually want visibility. They chase publicity, donors, recognition. It's the shadowy ones you should worry about." She never finishes the thought, but the silence is louder than words. That's when I realize Maria isn't just being friendly. She's training me without ever admitting it on how to uncover Christina's corruption. Public records, campaign finances, meeting minutes. All things anyone can access if they just know where to look. And when I do start looking, everything clicks. Richard's fear yesterday makes perfect sense. Maria isn't just a neighbor, she's a walking lie detector with a badge. Then comes the moment that flips everything upside down. Saturday morning, grocery store, Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman I've only ever nodded to, approaches me, trembling like someone carrying a deadly secret. She leans in close, her voice barely a whisper. "Mr. Rivera, I heard about your trouble with Mrs. Collins. I used to work for the Youth Foundation. Bookkeeping, about a year and a half ago. My pulse spikes. This isn't rumor. This is someone who's been on the inside. The money doesn't match the programs," she whispers. She keeps her voice so low I have to lean close, straining to catch her words over the chatter of the grocery store. Federal grants for summer camps that never existed. After-school programs with no students. Sports equipment that was purchased but never delivered to anyone. My stomach knots as she explains. She tried to raise the issue, but within a week Mrs. Collins threw her out of the foundation. With trembling hands, Mrs. Carter pulls a worn envelope from her purse. It looks like it's been folded and unfolded 100 times, soft from constant handling. "I shouldn't have kept these, but I couldn't ignore what I saw," she whispers, guilt etched on her face. Inside are copies of bank statements, grant files, and expense sheets that read like a crime novel. Money floods into the Pine Valley Youth Foundation, then vanishes through shell companies and fake vendors. Equipment invoices worth thousands, yet nothing delivered. Budgets for programs that never took place. Entire rosters of children who never existed. This isn't poor accounting, it's a deliberate, organized siphoning of federal money. Compared to this, my cabin rental issue feels like pocket change. Carter, who spent 40 years keeping books, doesn't need to spell it out. This isn't error, it's fraud. The scale is breathtaking. Have you ever discovered something about a neighbor that shook your trust completely? Comment below, I doubt your stories can top this. Because what she's given me isn't the end. It's just the fuse to something much bigger. Using Maria's research tips, I start cross-checking the foundation's shady payments with Christina's campaign finance reports from 2 years back. The overlap is chilling. The foundation's money snakes through shell accounts, then reappears as campaign donations from scattered, unrelated names across multiple states. It's money laundering disguised as charity, and the trail goes back at least 3 years. Christina isn't only skimming federal funds, she's converting them into raw political power. Suddenly, her arrogance about county backing makes sense. When you're secretly bankrolling campaigns with stolen grant money, you earn protection from officials too afraid to ask questions. Meanwhile, her son Jack Collins develops an odd new obsession. I spot him lingering in coffee shops during his mother's meetings, perched at the library when his father meets clients, or planted on park benches where he has a clear view of their home. Always with his phone out, always watching, always recording. At first, I think maybe he's finally curious about the family business, preparing for his own political climb. But something about the way he hides, the way he films in secret, tells me otherwise. The truth clicks the moment I catch Jack in his car outside the county courthouse, replaying secret videos on his phone. He's not studying his parents out of respect or curiosity, he's building a personal stash of leverage. Jack Collins, the spoiled heir, has turned into a blackmailer, hoarding his parents' private conversations to squeeze out bigger allowances, flashier toys, and fewer rules. What he doesn't realize is that the footage he's gathering for teenage extortion contains far more than family embarrassment. It holds proof of federal crimes that could send his parents away for decades and shatter his cushioned life. By Tuesday night, I've pieced together enough to understand the skeleton of Christina's scheme, but not the muscle. I can't take it to the authorities without sounding like a conspiracy nut connecting dots on a corkboard. That's when Richard Collins makes his most dangerous move yet. He arrives at my shop after closing, scanning the lot like a hunted man. His face is pale, his hands unsteady, and instead of threats or official documents, he's carrying a heavy briefcase. He pulls me aside, whispering like every word might cost him his life. She doesn't know I'm here. You're in more danger than you realize. Before I can press him, Richard stiffens. Christina's BMW is rolling back into view. His expression drains of color. What has he uncovered that terrifies him more than his own wife? When I finally examine what he left me, my blood chills. This isn't just incriminating, it's devastating. Richard has mapped out Christina's empire with surgical detail. It's a laundering machine woven through county offices, propped up by fake vendors and reaching into multiple federal channels. And now I'm holding the evidence in my kitchen at 2 a.m., surrounded by papers that could topple half the political structure of Pine Valley. That's when Maria Santos comes by for coffee. Only this time she doesn't bother pretending. Her eyes sweep over the records like an investigator at a crime scene. Her tone shifts calm, careful, and technical, the kind of phrasing you'd expect to hear on a witness stand. Gregory, she says, these patterns look like structured financial crimes, the kind that needs federal intervention. Her words land heavy. This isn't just a neighborhood squabble anymore, it's organized crime hidden behind the mask of charity. And now, I'm tangled right in the middle. Maria lays it out carefully, never crossing the line but leaving no doubt about her intentions. She explains only in theory, of course, how federal investigations unfold, how evidence is cataloged and preserved, and what protections exist for citizens who choose to cooperate. She doesn't directly ask me to become an informant, but the message hangs heavy in the air like cigarette smoke. When she leaves, I notice her folder is a little thicker. She's carrying copies of Richard's files, even while pretending it's just casual research into nonprofit oversight. Meanwhile, Jack Collins keeps playing spy, still believing he's just digging up dirt to squeeze a bigger allowance. Thursday afternoon, I spot him tucked in a booth at Pine Valley Diner, phone discreetly propped up as Christina and Richard meet across the table. They think they're whispering about campaign moves and foundation funds in public where no one will care. Jack thinks he's catching talk about tuition or curfews. What he's actually recording are conversations about laundering money, bribery deals, and shredding evidence before the federal audit arrives. The irony? His little blackmail hobby is building a case strong enough to topple a crime ring. If I could warn him, I would, but Jack's about to discover what happens when you play with fire, and Christina, her mask is slipping. The self-assured community leader now shows cracks in the armor. More closed-door meetings, more hushed phone calls from her car instead of her office, more clipped tones when she chats with neighbors. She's juggling too many threats at once. Richard's panic, Jack's odd behavior, my refusal to cave over the cabin, and the looming federal audit. And under the strain, she's starting to slip up in ways seasoned criminals never allow themselves to. The breaking point comes Friday afternoon. Christina storms onto my property with a full squad, a county inspector, a building code officer, and a private investigator hauling a camera rig. This isn't about safety, it's a hit job. They spend hours combing every inch of my cabin, searching for violations that don't exist. But thanks to Maria's quiet guidance, I've been ready for this. Permits up to date, repairs documented, compliance airtight. The most they can find is a loose deck board, which I tighten on the spot while they watch. The look on Christina's face when they come up empty tells me everything. She's out of legitimate weapons. The next move she makes won't just bend. The law will break it. And that's when things turn truly dangerous. That evening, Lavra walks through the door, her expression heavy with secrets. She doesn't even take off her coat before pouring a glass of wine. Then she sits down across from me, clearly preparing for a conversation that will change everything. Gregory. She begins, her voice steady but tense. I need to tell you something. About my job, something I've been forced to keep secret until now. My chest tightens instantly, because her tone signals this isn't casual, it's life-changing. For the past year and a half, Lavra has been directing a federal task force focused on corruption in local government. Money laundering, bribery, election fraud, serious crimes that spread across state lines and involve federal funds. She pauses, watching my reaction with sharp eyes. The Pine Valley Youth Foundation has been on their radar for more than 12 months. Suddenly, everything locks into place. Laura's late-night calls, those classified documents, Maria Santos, showing up just when I needed backup. None of it was random. My wife had been investigating Christina Collins long before the cabin dispute even started. Lavra explains federal investigations build slowly, piece by piece until the evidence is airtight. They've been following Christina's schemes, tracing money trails, linking her to co-conspirators, but they needed more. Either an admission, inside testimony, or proof of crime still in motion. The challenge with financial cases, Lavra says, is that much of the evidence is old past records, outdated emails, previous transactions. Judges want proof of ongoing corruption, undeniable evidence that the accused are still active. She looks at me meaningfully. Fresh recordings of criminal discussions would be a goldmine for federal prosecutors. At that moment, I realized Richard's reckless choice to record Christina's confession wasn't just luck, it was the final puzzle piece Laura's task force needed to trigger indictments. But then, everything shifts. Maria Santos calls with news so urgent that Laura's face drains of color. The conversation is short, clinical, heavy with law enforcement jargon I don't fully catch. But her body language says it all something catastrophic is unfolding. When she hangs up, Laval looks at me with a mix of pity and resolve. Christina Collins has just filed a sworn complaint with the sheriff's office claiming I threatened her with physical violence during yesterday's inspection. She's demanding my immediate arrest for criminal intimidation and harassment. The words slam into me like a hammer. Christina knows the walls are closing in. She knows the feds are circling. So she's trying to neutralize me with false charges. If I'm in jail, I can't testify, I can't hand over evidence. I can't protect Laura's investigation. Santos reviews what we've collected, her FBI radio suddenly erupting with static, and a message that makes her eyes go pale. We can't wait, she says sharply. We move tonight. If we delay until tomorrow, she doesn't finish. My pulse spikes. What deadline are we racing? The answer doesn't come from her lips. It arrives in the form of a convoy of black SUVs pulling up outside Christina Collins's mansion. Midnight. Federal agents gearing up to execute search warrants before she can burn records or silence witnesses. Lavra leans in, kisses me goodbye, then slides into tactical gear, transforming from wife to warrior in seconds, and then I see it, the task force vehicles fading into the night, heading to confront the woman who thought small-town cops couldn't touch her. But a knot twists in my stomach. Christina isn't finished. She has one more trap waiting for us. I can feel it. At dawn, I hear the helicopters first, their blades cutting through the mountain air like blades over water. I step into the kitchen, coffee in hand, as black SUVs roll down Maple Street like a grim procession. The growl of diesel engines rips apart the quiet morning. Tactical boots crunch on gravel, the metallic click of weapons breaking the silence, the sharp smell of gun oil mixing with pine. And then Laura, my Laura leading. A federal strike team in full gear, Christina's face when she opens her door. My God, I'll never forget it. The instant when her empire implodes in real time, while my coffee sits untouched, going cold on the counter. If you're still with me, hit like and subscribe, because what happens next makes this morning raid look like the calm before the storm. The woman who once mocked small town cops just discovered that her neighbor's wife has secretly been leading a federal task force investigating her crimes for the past 18 months. Christina's face cycles through every stage of grief in 10 seconds: flat shock, denial, fury, bargaining, and finally that hollow-eyed realization that she's been outplayed by someone she never even considered a threat. Laura's transformation is jaw-dropping. The warm woman who makes me coffee on Sunday mornings has vanished. In her place stands Chief Lavra Madison, commander of a federal task force, armored up and carrying the kind of authority that makes criminals confess without hesitation. When she reads out Christina's charges: racketeering, money laundering, election fraud, conspiracy, her voice is professional, sharp, and final enough to send chills down my spine. Mrs. Collins, Lavra says coldly, you should have listened when my husband warned you. The irony is crushing. Christina dismissed me for weeks, never realizing I was married to the one person in Pine Valley who had the federal reach to dismantle her entire empire. Her knees literally buckle as she grasps the scale of what's happening. This isn't some county-level mess she can smooth over with campaign contributions. This is federal prosecution, meaning federal prison. Her house is stripped apart piece by piece: computers, phones, records, handbags, everything boxed up as evidence in a trial that will make headlines across Colorado. Richard is arrested, too, but his cooperation earns him the role of co-conspirator instead of mastermind. Massive difference between 5 years and 25. And strangely, he looks relieved, like prison is easier than living under Christina's iron grip. But then comes the twist no one saw coming. Jack Collins, the spoiled teenager running a dumb blackmail scheme against his own parents, suddenly becomes the most valuable witness in a federal case. His recordings, made out of greed for allowance money and car payments, capture detailed confessions of fraud, bribery, and even intimidation tactics. Overnight, he goes from blackmailer to star witness, and the stunned look on his face says it all. He's finally realizing his parents weren't just strict. They were running a criminal enterprise. And here's where I need you to weigh in. Have you ever been falsely accused of something life-changing? Drop your story in the comments below, because what happens next tests everything I believe about fairness. Even as evidence trucks roll out and politicians are led away in cuffs, Christina makes one last desperate move. She accuses me of threats and harassment, claiming I intimidated her during last week's inspection. She files a sworn statement with the county, demanding my immediate arrest. It's a last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary from someone who knows the game is over but wants to drag me down with her. And the worst part? It actually works, at least for now, because bureaucracy doesn't care about irony, it only cares about procedure. Lavra is forced to step back due to our marriage, and the sheriff's department has no choice but to pursue Christina's complaint. Suddenly, my freedom is hanging by the thinnest thread, professional ethics. The same principle that stopped Lavra from stepping in earlier now forces her to stand aside while her own husband gets booked on fabricated charges from the very woman she just put in federal cuffs. The justice system, designed to shield the innocent, suddenly becomes the blade Christina wields for her last act of vengeance against the man who denied her everything. I spend the next 48 hours inside county holding, replaying every choice in my mind and realizing just how fast life can shift and how little control we really have over the storm. On Monday morning, I was just a small business owner worried about HOA disputes and Memorial Day reservations. By Wednesday night, I was sitting in jail accused of threatening a federal defendant who herself is facing decades behind bars. The irony burns. I'm in lockup because Christina Collins managed to weaponize the system, even while wearing her own shackles. But here's the crack in her plan, the blind spot that's about to destroy her legacy. Jack Collins has finally decided that his survival matters more than his mother's reputation. The kid realizes that his amateur blackmail recordings are now evidence in a federal corruption case. His only shot at escaping charges as an accomplice is cooperation. And when Maria Santos, now standing tall as a federal agent rather than a friendly neighbor, sits down with him, she uncovers pure gold. Jack's hidden recordings contain conversations the FBI's own wiretaps never caught, plots to erase evidence, silence witnesses, and frame innocent people through false reports. Which means my time in county lockup isn't just injustice, it's proof of Christina's ongoing crimes. And here's the twist she never saw coming. Richard, her husband, has already told investigators about Christina's plan to have me arrested on fabricated charges if intimidation didn't force me out. Lavra reads his sworn statement from her federal task force office and realizes that Christina's final play is actually another federal crime. Obstruction of justice layered with conspiracy enhancements that could stretch her prison sentence into multiple lifetimes. Prosecutors love nothing more than when a defendant keeps committing crimes mid-investigation. It shows intent, arrogance, and a complete disregard for the law. Christina basically hand-delivered them the smoking gun. Back in my cell, I overhear two federal agents talking in hushed tones. Collins doesn't know her own son has been. Their voices fade as they walk, but the fragments I catch hit like thunder. Jack's cooperation runs far deeper than anyone guessed. The spoiled kid who tried to blackmail his parents over car payments has suddenly become the FBI's star witness, the key that will crush his family's empire. But what's secret about Jack? Are even the feds hiding from Christina? That answer is about to rewrite everything we thought we knew about this war. Freedom, when it finally comes, tastes like the richest coffee you've ever had, especially when it's brewed with federal vindication and community support. My 48 hours inside county holding taught me a brutal truth. Being right won't keep you safe, but keeping receipts, documented proof, can eventually set you free. Maria Santos herself delivers the paperwork that clears my name. Her calm explanation reads like a federal case study. Mrs. Collins's accusations collapsed under real scrutiny, she says with satisfaction. Surveillance footage, witness, testimony, forensic analysis, each one exposing Christina's perjury and her attempts to intimidate. And just like that, her final revenge turns into her final nail in the coffin. Through the glass windows of Pine Valley First National, Christina Collins finally sees the truth. Unmarked federal vehicles block every exit. Tactical agents stand ready, not even bothering to hide anymore. Her escape routes are gone, her assets frozen, her freedom seconds from ending forever. The woman who thought she could outsmart the system, manipulate justice, and buy loyalty is about to learn the one truth. Nobody escapes. Federal prosecutors don't play games with criminals who keep committing crimes while on bail. Christina walks inside, believing she's about to vanish overseas with enough stolen money to start a new life in a country without extradition. Instead, she's walking straight into the end of her empire. The bank teller's hands shake as she processes the withdrawal slip. She glances down almost nervously and whispers, "Ma'am, are you sure you want to do this?" Christina flashes her signature confident smile. But for the first time, it falters. What does this teller know that she doesn't? And then it happens. In full police chief uniform, Lavra herself steps forward, cold, steady, unshaken. She slips the handcuffs onto Christina's wrists, each click echoing like thunder. Her voice slices through the silence. "Christina Collins, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, election fraud, racketeering, obstruction of justice, perjury, and witness intimidation. You have the right to remain silent, though you've already said more than enough. Too bad you didn't take my husband's warning seriously. That line, it's perfect. The final sting in the downfall of a woman who thought she was untouchable." Christina's face shifts from shock to rage to despair and finally resignation. The empire she built on fear and corruption has collapsed, dismantled by the very woman she once dismissed as a small-town cop. The evidence is overwhelming. 18 months of investigation, Jack's secret recordings, Richard's wired conversations, the so-called Pine Valley Youth Foundation, meant to help disadvantaged children, exposed as a laundering scheme that stole over $400,000 in federal funds. County officials, bribed for zoning favors and licenses, now face their own federal charges. Christina's web of influence, once her greatest weapon, has become the very roadmap to her destruction. Jack Collins? His deal means testifying against his parents, surrendering assets, and serving 200 hours in community service for the very kids his mother defrauded. The spoiled teen who once demanded my cabin for prom now spends weekends mopping floors and handing out food. His recordings capturing Christina plotting to silence witnesses were the nail in her coffin. Richard Collins? Cooperation bought him leniency, but not freedom. 5 years in prison, law license revoked, reputation destroyed. The man who once strutted in $1,000 suits now testifies in a prison uniform about the cost of enabling a corrupt spouse. His testimony wasn't born of conscience but of fear. Still, it was enough than me. My cabin business has never been stronger. What Christina once tried to weaponize against me became the very symbol of her downfall. Memorial Day weekend, the battlefield she once fought to control, became my most profitable season ever. Guests who once believed her lies now return. Every year, part of the rebirth of a community she nearly destroyed. And Pine Valley? The HOA is transformed. Transparency, democracy, neighbors no longer silenced by fear, and yes, my election as president. Proof that sometimes justice isn't just about prison sentences. It's about healing a town that was held hostage for too long. Property values soared as Pine Valley's reputation shifted from corrupt town to a community that finally fought back. What began with a spoiled teenager demanding my cabin ended with a town reborn, an HOA rebuilt, and justice served on every level. Lavra and my marriage came out stronger, grounded in respect for each other's integrity and courage. Her choice to uphold ethics during the civil fight and her brilliance in the federal investigation reminded me why I fell in love with her 15 years ago. Laura's leadership of the federal task force earned state and national recognition, opening doors we still discuss. My support for her career, paired with her protection of my business, built a partnership that survived pressure and grew even more committed. We learned that principles may cost short-term sacrifices but always deliver long-term rewards. The corrupt will never know. Christina's prosecution had an impact far beyond Pine Valley. The case became a model of federal-local cooperation to root out small-town corruption. Money laundering uncovered during the investigation triggered reforms in federal grant monitoring and nonprofit audits. County governments across Colorado reviewed oversight of officials tied to community groups. The collapse of Pine Valley Youth Foundation led to scrutiny of similar programs nationwide, exposing fraud rings in several states that mirrored Christina's scheme. One crime had revealed systemic issues that demanded systemic solutions. 6 months after Christina's conviction, Pine Valley looked completely different, cleaner, more democratic, and vigilant about oversight. At Pine Valley Diner, morning coffee now included federal agents, county investigators, and state officials ensuring corruption never crept back. Jack Collins, finishing his community service, sometimes gave embarrassed nods when we crossed paths. The teen who once demanded my cabin learned consequences apply even to the privileged. Richard Collins, serving his sentence in Denver, occasionally sent letters apologizing for harassment and thanking prosecutors for noting his cooperation. Memorial Day returned with celebrations that felt patriotic again. My cabin was rented by a Kansas family eager to support the business that stood against corruption. Lavra spent the holiday as my wife, helping me prepare the property and enjoying the piece of Silver Lake, the same Lake Christina once tried to control. As we watched the sunset, Lavra whispered that integrity demands courage but delivers satisfaction dishonesty never will. The best part of having a police chief wife, justice always wins. That's the insane downfall of Christina Collins, the woman who thought money and power could shield her crimes. What twist shocked you the most? Drop it in the comments. And if this story had you saying, "No way, that's real," smash like, share with a friend, and subscribe for more unbelievable HOA horror stories.